Yeah, 45 is a tough price.
It's a starting price. It's an EV, supply chain shortages. I kind of get it, but it's like it's not going to be cheap to start at 45K. So that's where it is beginning. Subaru Solterra, 45K.
I want to check right now. This might be their most expensive car that they sell now.
Most expensive starting?
Mm-hmm.
I can see that.
Let me check real quick. So their most expensive car is the top level trim Ascent, which is their 3-row SUV. That's at $45,900, but you can also get a base Ascent at $32,000. So like this is their most expensive car.
The Solterra leapfrogs the entire lineup in price. You got to really want this one. So what do you get for your 45K to start? You get a 228-mile range, and you get a quoted 0 to 80% battery charge in under an hour.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rough.
So that would have been good in like 2017. 228-mile range would have been okay in 2017.
These specs, to me, feel like they're like super base level specs where I would only be impressed with these specs if we were getting a new price range. Like if we were getting a $30,000 car with these specs,
exactly,
I would be like, this is amazing. This is this is like the jump into being far more affordable. And like 228, it's not that great compared to other things we've had. But if you're looking at like a super base level EV that's going to get you to and from work pretty much every single day on your charge from like your garage, right? So like, sure, you're making the sacrifice of not being able to do long road trips quite as easily, but like you're trying to buy the cheapest EV possible. Like, you know, you're going to have to make sacrifices.
I would basically, in like the most basic sense of it, be looking for either a low price or a high range, one or the other. And this has neither.
This is neither.
It's a high price and a low range.
Yeah. And then even with the low range, giving it this under an hour, I think someone quoted it at 0 to 80% was like 56 minutes.
Yeah, so it's 100 kilowatt charging.
It's brutal.
So just for some context, the new, like if you look at a Tesla right now, they charge at 200 to 250 kilowatts if you find the chargers that support it.
Yeah.
The slower Tesla superchargers are 150 kilowatts. And then the fastest ones you might see, I think a Taycan supports 300 kilowatt charging. So there's some really fast EVs out there.
I think there's even some cheaper ones now. Isn't the Hyundai and the Kia quoted at 300?
I think the Ioniq might be the fastest charging. There's one that does 350.
Yeah, I think that's it. I have it here later because I want to compare these to the EV6 and the Ioniq 5. But I think the Ioniq 5 has like 0 to 80 in like 16 minutes or something like that.
So the 100 kilowatt charging being the max on a fast charger is also pretty disappointing in 2022. Like if you drop this car today, that would have been, again, fine in 2017. But again, we're looking at a 45K starting price and a low range. So you could redeem it with super fast charging, but it's also not super fast charging.
Yeah, and like to put into context here also, like $45,000, when we only talk about EVs, a lot doesn't sound like the craziest price in the world. But when we're talking about just the average person in a car, and especially the average person getting a Subaru, you can get a hatchback Impreza starting at 19, at under 20.
Yeah.
So to have a car it's more similar to like the Crosstrek, which is basically the hatchback Impreza lifted a little bit at double the price.
You have to really want the electric one.
Yeah, it feels like not quite for that crowd.
Yeah.
So it is I consider it way overpriced, I think.
Yeah.
A couple things. Some people really don't like the design of it. I've heard people say it doesn't look like a Subaru. I kind of disagree with not looking like. I think the Crosstrek and the Imprezas have been becoming like a little sleeker and harder lines, and I think it kind of follows that path and isn't too far off. I know people don't like it has these black matte sides kind of to the front of it that I don't love, but I don't hate. I don't think it looks that bad. The interior looks fine.
There's a lot of like interesting design decisions that have to be made with EVs because there's always like, I'm looking at it now. Yeah, that's interesting. I actually kind of like it, but I also think you don't have to look like the other cars in the lineup. No. This is the thing, like the Mach-E, which I'm starting to see everywhere. I see Mach-E everywhere. Yeah, you have the flat plastic front grille, which I think is nice. The performance version has that. So it's the body matching color on the front grille. Like that's not a thing you see in other performance Mustangs. It's like different. That's fine. And you also see a lot of aero caps every time you see an EV. They're trying to maximize efficiency. Aero caps are a big deal. And you just don't see aero caps on most of the other EVs. So you see those two things. You know it's the EV and it looks like the EV. And I think it's fine to be a little different like that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I don't mind
it.
how it looked. I give it a 6.5 out of 10.
If I'm being honest
design,
right now,
pure design.
I've never been super into the Subaru aesthetic. This is my favorite looking Subaru.
I totally agree with you. As a Subaru fan, their aesthetic is always like low. Their WRXs, I think, look really nice. But then other than that, they're pretty much fine. It's usually like reliability and price. And price is why I like them so much.
Yeah.
But so like another thing here is that this is built with Toyota as well. Toyota is also coming out with a BZ4X, which is pretty much the exact same car if you look at it. I mean, it is the exact same car. It's similar to what Toyota and Subaru did with the BRZ and I forget if it's the FRS or the Type 86. I think they change the name sometimes, and I will get crucified for saying that. But the biggest issue here, though, is the BZ4X is cheaper. And has some different specs. So the problem is Subaru likes to do all-wheel drive and everything, so they're only offering the all-wheel drive version, which we know for EV means less efficiency, so now you're losing range on it. But there is still a BZ4X all-wheel drive that's $1,000 cheaper.
All-wheel drive. Okay, well, I mean, yeah, so adding a second motor obviously adds weight, but you can improve efficiency if you have lower-powered motors, if you have the right motor combo.
So far in all the cars I'm going to mention in this segment, the all-wheel drive version has less range than the rear-wheel drive version. It's a higher
performance version. Okay, yeah. Dang. Well, they tried, I think. Subaru.
Yeah, so you can get a BZ4X forward or front-wheel drive, which I do like. There's not a huge difference between rear-wheel and front-wheel. If you're in snow, rear-wheel generally can be a little harder to navigate because the back slips out. Yeah. So I do like that the BZ4X has front wheel drive and 252 miles of range for 42K. So like I would pick that over the Solterra any day.
It's better.
Even if you like the Solterra, that is it.
Yeah.
It's just cheaper and
different
has more
logo.
range. Yeah. But to compare it here, we said it before, the reason this is so tough to look at is because of the EV6 and the Ioniq 5 right now, which are very similarly sized cars.
I want to test the Ioniq 5 Ace. I'm so into
the Ioniq. I saw one when I was on vacation. It looks so good.
I'm so into it.
The interior had this like weird white bezels on the screen that I didn't love, but other than that, like from the outside, I was like, whew, there's a car like you don't see. Like it doesn't look like anything else on the road right now.
That's it. That's another thing. So you look at other Hyundais, and if I was a Hyundai fan, I'd be like, this doesn't look exactly like any other Hyundai. I think that's totally fine. Yeah. And it's got I like the wheels. I love the lights.
Dude, it gives me Rivian feel. It's like it feels like if Rivian was building a crossover. Like Hayato has mentioned it before that Rivian they're getting away from that super aggressive, which I actually do really like, but this more like friendly feel to it.
Yeah.
Like friendly robots, not like Terminator robots. So it has that friendly feel.
You know what this reminds me of? So a really long time ago back in the day, maybe the first car I can ever remember my family having was called a Grand Prix, and it had those like square lights in the tail lights.
Okay.
And the Ioniq is a modernized version of those tail lights.
What?
It's a can I find a Grand Prix?
I want to say that's Pontiac.
Yes, it was a Pontiac Grand Prix. Yeah, you can kind of find. Yep, it's got the taillights, and they're always like these dots and everything. And this is just a new, super modern version of it. So I'm very into the Ioniq. I want to test it. I want to see if it's good. But like you said, on paper, it beats it in everything. It's got 300 miles of range. It starts at about 42K. Is that what it is? And
for the Solterra or the Ioniq?
The Ioniq.
Here I can. I have some Ioniq specs here. 300 miles, 42K rear-wheel drive. You can get all-wheel drive, 252 miles at 47K. But also remember, that's 2,000 more expensive, but fast charging.
Also charges dramatically faster.
Dramatically fast. That's not even a competition. Almost 3 times faster, I think, than that. And then you also have the Kia EV6, which I also think looks really, really good. You can get 230 miles of range, rear-wheel drive at 40K, 310 miles of range, rear-wheel drive, 47K. Or you can do 274 miles of range, all-wheel drive for 50K.
Yeah, it's all about context. Like I know a lot of people here, like the difference between 220 miles and 300 miles is like, okay, 80 more miles of range. What does that even mean? It's all about just like convenience, how often you have to charge it, and if you were to do a longer trip, the type of like experience you would have. So the sweet spot today being somewhere between 300 and 400 miles, because that's when you're going to have to get out and use the bathroom anyway. And then just being able to stop anywhere and charge. The 220 mile range version of this experience is like kind of inconvenient because you're stopping more often than you have to, and then you're adding stops for just charging but not using the bathroom or snacking, and then it's just a whole mental
and using the bathroom and snacking with a 1 hour
with
0
a
to
slow
80
charger
is rough.
See, that's the cherry on top, is the slow charging. I really can't believe that that's what it ended up with.
So I'd rather save $5,000, get the EV6, same range, but 0 to 80% in 18 minutes on the right charger. Obviously.
It's like when the OnePlus has like a smaller battery, but it charges at like 1,000,000 miles an hour. They'll give like 80-watt charging to a 3,800 milliamp hour battery. It's like, this phone doesn't last all day, but the second I plug it in, it's like added 40%. So I'm cool with that.
Yes. So I think all in all, at the end of the day, I'm sad. Me sad. Andrew sad.
All right, thanks for watching that clip. I just wanted to make sure you guys knew that the next time I am invited to go to the Met Gala, if that happens, I'm going to be dressed as the subscribe button specifically to the Waveform Clips channel. You can just tell when you look at it. It looks like the subscribe button to the Waveform Clips channel.
Is it like the regular version or the clicked version?
It's going to be the red version that you just want to click. You just got to click it.
You should try clicking it just to see what you know what? Click it to see if he should go as the not subscribed version or the subscribed version. I think the subscribed version looks nicer aesthetically, so on your screen you should probably click it.
That's fair. Turns a nice like neutral color.
And the back of it, your tie will just be all the comments from this video.
Perfect.
So leave a lot of comments, and you might get to retroactively go to the.
You can go to the Met with me on my tie. Book it.
Send it. Like it. I guess we forgot to mention that, but you should anyways.
You did that right.
Nice. Thank you. I appreciate you.